Welcome back to Captain Harold DeMarrero's River Stories, Volume 35. We last left Captain. He was enjoying himself in Lockport, Louisiana. Got a good crew together. He's being able to spend a little more time golfing. So let's get back to the story. Take it away, Cap.
Well, life was great for me back then. With one exception, I don't want to talk about my ex-wife, but that was probably the only downer about my life in Lockport. And so I kept working with my crew, and then I got a call from the dispatcher one day, and he says, "We have a problem up on the Tom Bigby at one of the docks, or the Warrior." And I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "We got a barge up there that's on fire." I says, "What?" "Yeah, this #1 hatch, man. They left the flame screens out, and it ignited, friction ignited the gases coming up, and it's on fire." So these guys, actually, I didn't know what to tell them to do, really. I should have known, but I really didn't. All the time I was in the Coast Guard and all that, I never really learned that much about the firefighting situation in the industry. So those guys drug a 2 canister set of carbon dioxide, and they mixed those things up and blew them into that hatch and stopped that, or just shut that fire off immediately.
Suffocated it.
Suffocated. And it was out. It was over. They put the screens back in there, and they didn't have a problem, loading the rest of the barge. But they could have been blown away. If that thing had, all the gases kind of ran out and that went down inside, it was burning the gases that were on the outside. If it had got down below decks, it'd have blew that whole thing apart. So they did a big thing with it, what they did. So when they got back to Lockport, we had some kind of a dinner. The company threw a special dinner to honor these guys. And the main prize that they were going to be given, actually, I picked out. And I didn't want to buy these guys. Back then, my salary was probably only close to $1,000 a month. So, those guys were working for a lot less than me. So I bought them a nice set of luggage, and it was expensive stuff, and gave it to them at this meeting, and they were pleased. They were happy they got it. They were, we took pictures of them getting, their stuff. So it was a nice time. Now, the next thing that happened when I was at Bollinger was something that probably really changed me, changed the Bollinger situation, changed everything. And that was this: I was over in Alabama dealing with a customer over there at one of our docks, the Hunt Oil Company. And this hurricane comes in to the Gulf of Mexico, and it tells, I call the dispatcher and give orders for this tug that we got out in the Gulf of Mexico to go into a slip behind, some islands and stuff there around Morgan City. And no sooner, 30, 40 minutes later, this salesman with the company, vice president of sales, Jim Westbrook, he goes in and gives orders. "I'll tell you when you can take this tug in. You take this tug back out in the government. This storm is not going to be that bad. Next thing you know, the storm hits them direct. The boat separates from the barge. The barge ends up way out in the Gulf of Mexico. And the tug is beached somewhere around Lake Charles, sitting up on the beach, trying to dig their way off. And
Everybody survive?
Oh, the crew survived. They said it was like 60-foot way up, seas out there. And so, anyway, I had to make a decision, so I hired a helicopter. Well, actually, a seaplane. Helicopters really wasn't that much around back then. It was a seaplane, so I had to drive to New Orleans, get a seaplane, go out into the Gulf of Mexico, and look for the barge to see if we could find it. So we were flying around. One of the things that really kind of impressed me was we was flying over this area right out of this hurricane, and there was one of these killer whales trapped in a little pond, thrashing his way trying to get out of it, and there was no place for him to go. It was kind of sad, you know. I knew he was going to die. And then, because the tide was going out after this hurricane, and so we went on over, and then I saw my boat, my tug, on the beach. We flew on a little bit further out in the Gulf of Mexico, and we found the barge. It was floating. So I had the plane turn around and land at Cameron, Louisiana, and let me off. So I go over in Cameron, pull out my business card from B&B Towing, part of Bollinger, and immediately, you know, what do you need? So I rented this tug, this crew, and we went out into the Gulf of Mexico and searched the area that I thought the barge should be in. And as we were coming down, we looked and we saw a Coast Guard cutter. I think it might have been the Defiance. It's like a 68-foot, or might be a 168-foot Coast Guard cutter, you know. And he had this barge on a tow line. So we came up alongside, and I says, "That's my barge. We'd like to get it." "Well, who are you?" I passed my B&B Towing Company business card over there, and then they turn loose, and then we pick it up with this tug, and then we tow it back into Cameron. And all this time the boat crew is... But anyway, that's what happened. So this caused a big thing in the company, man. Thing I had to get settled right away was, who the hell's running things around here? Operation, me or him? So we called this emergency meeting of the board of directors. And they really... I had all the cards, you know. I brought the boat into safety, and he sent it out, and it was a catastrophe, you know. Cost us a lot of money.
He made a mess and you had to clean it up.
Right. So I immediately wanted what I wanted to come out of this meeting happened. I says, he doesn't ever give any orders to these boats ever again. Nothing. And they said, we agree. So within a month or so, old Jim just couldn't handle it. The defeat was too great for him. And so he quit. And so then they asked me, they said, well, you want to be executive vice president? You can handle sales and you can handle operations. I said, why not? And so I got kicked up to executive vice president of Bollinger.
Okay, Cap, we'll have to wrap it up. Hope everybody comes back and watch some more Captain Harold DeMarrero's River Stories.